Welcome back to another episode of the Non-Standard Podcast. I'm your host, Manny Lamson. I don't know if I've ever said that in one of them before, but I am the host, Manny Lamson. Today is a different setup of podcast. I bring in two that have already been on the podcast before, Colomba and Gonzo. What we discuss is very fine-tuned to Dyess, but something anybody can take with them, and it is what we call the RAD program, Rapid Airmen Development. It is established here at Dyess to help airmen build morale at this base that has lacking of morale. But it's become more than that. It's become a small team, community, family that does hard things together to excel in the workplace. And today I bring in two people who are crushing it in their workplace by literally just doing hard things. There are multiple people I could talk to about this, but I brought them into my house today and we talk about it. So with that being said, before we get to the episode, if you liked what you heard, or you learned something, or you want to share with somebody else, it's pretty simple. Save, share, comment, follow, like, do what you got to do. Reach out to me on Instagram if you want, if you have any questions. I look forward to gathering your leadership questions and bringing them on another episode I do as well, which is just question and answers. Don't forget, every episode, there's going to be one dropping every Sunday morning at 5 a.m. And then every other week, we try to drop our question and answer episodes on Wednesday. But with that being said, you only want to hear this episode, so let's get to it.
But if we were sponsored,
it's not like I never wear any first form stuff. Welcome everybody to the Non-Standard Podcast with another non-standard edition here. This is a first live group recording. For those listening, we have in the house Colomba and Gonzo, which I've already had on an episode before. But the reason I brought them here today, just like I mentioned in the intro really quick, is we just talk so much on the side. We were just like, let's just record what we talk about. Because when we do our rucks, we'd say we're solving the world's problem in 2 hours because we get done and we're just like, our minds are going everywhere, our juices are flowing, and we're like, oh my God, like this is the stuff we need to make reels out of and do things like that. And so I was like, well, let's just sit down and have a discussion on one, see what we can get out of it. But the main purpose for this one is I want to talk about what sort of got me started on the podcast, what got me started on my journey. When I started was RAD here at Dyess. So RAD stands for Rapid Airmen Development. It was a program that I started in 2022. I always get the years mixed up. 23, maybe 21. 21. A group of, or we'll just scratch that. A guy started a program through the Innovation Cell to help airmen get together and lead, build mentors, build a community, do some hard things, but just help the overall morale at Dyess Air Force Base. Because just like any other installation or base, there's people that complain about what goes on here. There's not enough to do. We need more community involvement. We need more morale. So this opportunity happened. It transformed a lot in the past few years, where when I got in, we went to the Netherlands. It started off with a 80-mile ruck march over there in Europe, paid for by Dyess, with 19 airmen to go over there to push our boundaries and our limits and meet new people. And then for me, it started my transition into sort of the endurance phase. I did a half Ironman after that. I did a marathon after that. And then sort of did all these hard things that we're going to talk about today, 4x4x48, the Bataan Death March. Next week, we're doing the 24-hour row, which I think will be pretty interesting to do. But RAD has transformed into a hard task group. Very small group, but a group that has done hard things and proved when you do hard things, you succeed. And these guys have proved it, and they're going to tell you some stories on how they have succeeded. And then for me, it's been more of a leadership opportunity for me to help develop my leadership skills, get to know new people, and just that alone has been amazing. So, like I said, RAD was developed to mentor, lead, push people beyond their limits, build a community at Dyess to help improve the morale at the base. In some realms, it has helped. We've seen it help at our levels and our squadron levels. It definitely hasn't reached where we wanted to, but that's fine because we don't mind doing our rucks with only 4 people. It's perfectly fine like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Gonzo and Colomba. I'm going to ask them, what did you hear about RAD? Why did you want to get into it? And where do you, if you were to rate it, what do you think it compares to other opportunities in the military? So Gonzo, I'll start with you.
Sure. I actually didn't hear about RAD. Specifically, I was in the base gym and I got the flyer for the Norwegian foot march. Showed up, and that's where I ran into you, Colombo, and everybody who showed up early was pretty much a part of RAD. and then I just kind of got thrown into the mix. So I didn't hear anything specific, which I know they later started going to the flights for all the new airmen coming in.
Yeah.
Um,
So what year did you hear? What year was this? Was this 21 when we started, or was it 22?
I think it was the end of 21, start of 22. It was like
Okay,
right
before
at that.
the Bataan. No, the Bataan was 23.
It's August 21.
August 21? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why we got you.
Okay.
Um,
August 21.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was when we came back from the Netherlands. So we did that trip.
Right after
August.
the Iron Man.
Okay, yeah, okay. August. Okay, now I'm getting my years straight. Cool. So you heard about the NFM. Why did you want to do the NFM? So for those listening, the NFM is the Norwegian Foot March, which military members can do to earn a foreign badge, which is one of the reasons we like RAD. It has brought courses to Dyess that no other base has. No other base has this many NFMs they've put on. No other base has sent an LRS airman to airborne school, or 19 airmen to the Netherlands, or 9 airmen to an air assault course where they all crushed it. We've done the German Armed Forces. Man, that's such a crazy tangent is what we've done at Dyess. But you heard of the NFM. You decided to ruck 18.4 miles with 35 pounds. I don't know, 6 or 5 a.m. Why?
Try something new. I feel like I've been complacent. And like you said, prior to you coming, I've been at Dyess since 2017, and there's been nothing like that. So then I just go home after work, go to the gym, kind of mess around, do whatever, go back to work. So getting out of my comfort zone, trying something new, getting the badge, because prior to that, I haven't received any decorations, like I told you. I'm just going through the motions, so I was like, you know what? Let me get out there, get out of my comfort zone, try something new. And then, like I mentioned, ran into you guys. You guys were, hey, we're recruiting. We need more people. So I jumped in with y'all, and then it just took off. And it's been NFM after NFM after NFM, GAFPB, on to the next. So
Yeah, so one of the cool things for the courses we put on is airmen get something out of it, right? So that's what we wanted to provide as well, is not just these rucks for our own purpose and sweat and tears, but for the airmen to show what they've done. And the NFM, you can do that. You can earn a badge. You could wear it on your unit. I think most of the people wear it on their blues because it's an easy ribbon to show. The GAFPB is another badge you can wear. And so that's why we chose these events that are hard, but also you could earn things from. So we'll talk about it probably a little bit later, but the MICMAP is another course we've put on for RAD, for airmen to earn something they can show in their workplace, right? They get to wear a belt with their uniform that's a little different and put them out that they've done something cool. Okay, so you did the NFM, and then we'll tie back to you after on why you continue doing it. But that's how you heard about it, was just the ruck marches at Dyess. Then you saw another random group that was there earlier, working and ready to go, and that's where Colomba comes in. So what did you? And so for those of you listening, if you've listened to Gonzo as a reservist, traditional, so the non-standard recruitment we were trying to get for RAD, but he's there. And then you have our Army recruiter that comes in, where obviously at RAD we're trying to get the lower airmen at Dyess to build morale, but we're reaching this tier of people who are still killing it and crushing it, but just a different tier that we thought we'd get. But anyways, that's where sort of Colombo comes in. So what about you?
So I heard of it from my wife. She was stationed here about almost a year prior to me. Came out to recruiting. It's a huge change from the line, the PT at 6:30 with the boys. So I found myself in kind of like the similar situation of just like going through the motions, like, okay, go to the gym, go home, go to work, go home. And I was looking more for like that group, that community of like, okay, so like, what's next? What's the next challenge? Like, to keep pushing, because like, I'm a human being that if I don't have something that I'm working towards, I get complacent. So that was my huge motivator. And then that's when she's like, well, there's this crazy group of guys that ruck around Dyess. And I was like, I'm in. Give me a point of contact. And that's when I hit you up. And we met at the hangar center.
Okay, nice. Cool. So what I'll do is I'll now ask the questions on, since you've done your first event, what has it opened up for you? What, this is your time to I want you to sort of to brag on how has it put you in perspective to those in your office? Because the reason we talk about RAD being a benefit for a base to have where airmen are doing things outside of their comfort zone, it's going to make them better workers in their workplace. And we say that with a small tier of airmen that we've had at Dyess, but they've all excelled. And Gonzo has some great examples. Colomba has some with what he's done in his job. We have other airmen that have crushed it. We had Airman Brooks last year who won, I think, Maintenance Airman of the Year in his squadron. And he was a prime example of sort of what we were reaching for at RAD. He was a young airman, didn't have a lot of friends, very new to the States. You know, his story is, I think I should get him on here. But anyways,
he's got a wild story.
His story is pretty crazy. But he joined RAD to do hard things and push himself. And he did, and he excelled. And that's sort of what we've seen from some of the airmen is what leads next into the workplace. And I'm a huge component of, if you are physically capable of doing hard things, you can mentally do hard things in the workplace. How has that transferred over to you?
Yes, sir. So after the first Norwegian foot march, I got my badge, got my certificate, turned it in. I was like, man, handed it over. I was like, I like this. So
Got the edge.
yeah. Went on to the second. Then we got a silver badge next. I can't remember if we went GAFPB first, and then
we did first, second, then we did GAFPB. Then we did third, and it was right after the Bataan too.
Bataan.
So we did like Norwegian, Bataan, GAFPB on like 3 weeks and 4x4 by 48. Because I remember that month. I was like,
what was it after?
It was March.
No, but the 4x4 was after Bataan, right?
I think it was, you did it twice.
You did it twice. We did it after.
Twice. Yeah, you did it, and then I fell off with.
Oh yeah.
Plantar fasciitis. We marched, came back, and then I did it the second time. As far as just doing the hard things, when you're out there, just you're battling your mental. I mean, you're sorting everything. We have 4 hours, 6 hours, however long we're marching, to just get in your head and talk things out, like you said, even on these short rucks. So seeing the limits I can push myself to, and then being like, you know what, I went that far, let's go further. And you keep pushing further and further. So just me, I guess, building myself just as a leader, as a person, as a father, through the hard things. That's what I took from that aspect. But as far as my career, turning all these certificates in, getting that FaceTime with, my chief, my commander, and just winning awards, it spilled over into work. I got Maintenance Professional of the Year. I got Leo Marquez. I won the Saigen Award.
What's that award?
It's just for my work practices. So Maintenance Professional of the Year, just everything I contributed in my work center. Same thing with Leo Marquez. So they kind of run hand in hand. I swept both of those last year. It was like 21 to 22, and then 23 for the Saigen was leadership and volunteering, because not only doing this, not only at work, but then giving back to the community. And then I just got in this role. So I didn't want to stop until you get in that spotlight. And like y'all said, that's addicting. You win your first award, you go up in front of everybody, and you're like, whoa, I like it up here. So let me get back up here. So then you're pushing. Well, in doing so, like you mentioned, being an art, I work with active duty all around me. So they're not in my squadron, they're not my unit. I started pulling them on. And then you start seeing, how you mentioned, you start pulling all these other individuals in, and then the ball's rolling. And then at my shop, I think we had one of the kids went to the McMap course. He ended up getting step promoted. Some of the other individuals were winning Airmen of the Quarter, who did the McMap, who I took with for the March to Dykirk we did.
Oh, yeah.
That's another one I forgot about.
That was 2 weekends, 2 Saturdays in a row, 25 miles.
So
26 something walking, which was horrible.
26.2.
For real. And going back to him, I took one of the guys from my shop, and I don't throw names out there, but we get done, and he's just freaking out. Like, we're in our last quarter mile, and he like calls his mom. He's like, "Mom, you're never gonna believe this." And she's like, "What? How do you?" He's like, "I'm with Gonzo here." She's like, "Who's Gonzo?" He's like, he's just freaking out. Like, "Oh, we're like at 56 miles." And he's like, "Oh, I can't believe it." Gets off the phone, and he's like in tears. He's just like, "Gonzo, I've never pushed myself to this limit." He was like, in school, I was just that gamer. band member, and the furthest we marched in band was just up the field and back. So he was like,
when we talk about developing others, that's a great feeling. When you get to push your guys to do things that they didn't think they could do, and then you see them celebrate those victories. It don't matter like how small they are, and you're like, yeah, you did it.
So like that seeing all these little victories, not just your own, it's like wildfire, and then it caught, and two, it does, all this stuff does build the ego. So everybody at the shop is seeing this. They're just like, man, you don't stop. You're at the NFM, and then you go to the gym, and you do jiu-jitsu on the side of all that, and you're crushing it at work. And I know I mentioned they were like bickering amongst themselves. I walked in, and they were like, well, you can't do 20 push-ups in a row. Neither can you. Like, well, Gonzo can. Like, it's like the David Goggins in the Air Force. Like, Gonzo can do anything. So like hearing that stuff, obviously I don't let it go to my head, but it feels good. And to know, like I said, not just my daughter's watching. I've got the younger,
You should see his daughter when she like talks about her dad. Like, she is so proud. That's pretty awesome to see.
That's cool.
I wish my kids were at that age where like they could understand what's going on, because they still see it and they're like, oh, well, that's just walking.
Yeah, that's Connor's right there, being 9, about to be 9, right around that age. He doesn't like see it, but he just thinks it's really cool, you know. And but yeah, so a couple of things you hit, which I want to cover is, you have to be selfish before you can be selfless, right? So those of you know, that's one of my leadership philosophies, and it's a hard one for people to swallow correctly. When I say correctly, a lot of people are going to hear the term selfish, like, oh, that just means I can do whatever I want for myself, right? Like, be arrogant or be cocky, but no, like, and we've seen it in the military, you're only going to follow the people who you think can do the job. If somebody gives you a task, you expect them that they're giving you that task because they could probably do it with you. And that's where being selfish comes in. And you've heard my journey. Like, that's what started me on my journey, was I had to control myself, win for myself. And then I won for my family. And that's what allowed me to do RAD. Is I was already pretty established before I started to get into the RAD. RAD like fell into my lap. Like, I literally saw the NFM. And for me, I was already a year into my transformation. So I started my transformation. I was already down like super light, down 45 pounds, doing 75 hard. I was already had my Ironman planned. I had my marathon planned. So the RAD was just there. And when I heard about it at Dyess, I heard about it through what we call a TMT in Dyess. I don't even know what this acronym is for TMT. Something management tasking. It's where like the Air Force will push an email on an event going on base-wide. And I saw it for the Nijmegen to go to the Netherlands and ruck. And we did a staff ride out there as well. And I was like, yo, I got to be in on this. And so I applied. Major Martin at the time saw my application. He sort of heard about who I was. He's like, hey, if you want to do this, you have to do an NFM. And I was like, what's that? He's like, oh, you have to ruck this much. I was like, I could probably do that. Because I was running a lot. I think I already ran a half marathon by then. And I did a full marathon on January 1st. And so I just jumped right in. I was at that point in my life where hard was ready. And so, yeah, to tie it in, you have to be selfish. And it's not cocky. It's not arrogant. Like you said, it's, and I wanted you to brag a little because you deserve it. And we had that discussion yesterday at the office, right? Like he was asking me, Manny, like, who knows what you're doing with RAD and Dyess? Like, do your commanders know? And I was like, no, nobody really knows what I'm doing. Would I like it if like my commander was like, hey, dude, I love how Colomba and those guys doing these things. Like, I don't care because I know what you guys are getting out of it. I know what my role is. But it's good to hear your perspective. And what I did like what you said is when you started doing it, other people noticed and they started doing things. Like, that's what people need to realize. Like, for change to happen, obviously it has to start with you. And it's literally that simple as a ruck. And we use ruck loosely in the Air Force. Like Colomba, like in the Army, from what I've heard and gathered, rucking is not what you do loosely.
Yeah, it's not optional.
And so there are probably other ways you guys build that respect. But we listen to podcasts all the time. Mentors from Military talks about it. The Teach Me to Podcast Fish talks about it. Comfort versus crisis, right? In the Army, comfort is rucking. So that's where you get to know each other. You get to build morale and community so that when you go into the office, I want Goggins in my office, dude. I don't want lazy people in my office that are making excuses. Like, no, like I want a Goggins. I want a freaking, I don't know, Nick Bear or those guys who are out there crushing it, or Chad Ryder, those guys I want them all in my office. This is going to be a hard office. It's probably going to be pretty tough to manage. So I got some killers in there, man. But I'd rather manage killers all day than a bunch of fish. But so yeah, you talked about Colombo. What's it done for you? He told me a couple things that he's seen out for you being here on a recruiting job, which I think hindsight from what I know about recruiting, but it could be a job where you do get comfortable. You do
definitely
the same maybe things, but
so being in a relaxed environment, you're put out in the middle of nowhere. Our nearest leadership is 2.5 hours away. They're not going to be coming out here to check on us on a daily basis. So yeah, people do tend to get comfortable, and I was able to catch myself in time because I started going down that like comfort path. I don't have to work out today, and then once I signed up for that the first Norwegian, because it was right after we got back from the trip, and it was a Wednesday. And you're like, oh yeah, on Friday we're doing this, and I was like, well, I haven't rucked in like 6 months. We'll see how this goes. And that led me to meet Gonzo, and it was an interesting story with Gonzo. I know he doesn't want to bring it up, but I will, because the buckle on his ruck snapped.
So he's just carrying it.
Yeah, and he's just like muscling it with one shoulder. I know that like if he has to do this for the next 16 miles, he's gonna be destroyed at the end. So we like stopped and like rigged it with like a belt, and hey, he was able to finish with it. And I was like that's one of those moments like you get to know people like that. That's why I like PT personally, right? Because the comfort versus crisis. You get to know them at that time, because later on, if something happens, you already know your guys, and that's kind of like how I got to bond with Gonzo during that time. And after that, like seeing him crush that one in that situation came back full circle 6 months later when I go do a Norwegian and I have strep and I'm falling behind. And then Gonzo's the one that's like, all right, hey man, like we're cutting it close. We got to go.
What's it done for your work, family, life?
So work, it's definitely helped with keeping that fire going, because like it relit that fire. The first 6 months were a struggle. I got into the red. I started trying to like help out as much as I could, participating in all the events. But lighting that fire benefited me in the recruiting aspect, because now the people that I'm trying to convince to join the Army, they see the recruiter doing it. Like a lot talk about it, but they're not about it. And them seeing that, I think that's one of the things that helped me out in the office. It helped bring Vega in. The new guy, Sergeant Golden. Mm-hmm. Like it helped relight that fire on other NCOs that were kind of like in the similar situation. And then seeing them succeed at it, like had that rewarding feeling of like, okay, well, I was able to pull myself out of a rut. I lit the fire. I crushed it that first year. Went from like the new guy to number one recruiter in the station. And then we're crushing it this year. I was telling you about it earlier. This is the first time since 2019 that we're going to make like the recruiting mission for the quarter. And I think it's owed to that, to like the guys seeing me get after it, them getting after it. It builds like this confidence, this mental aspect of like, all right, now we're like ready to get after it.
Nice. That's good. Let's talk about the concept of, we'll just jump right into doing hard things, right? So, for those listening, one of the reasons I started this podcast was just to show people and teach people leadership traits are not hard to come by. They're actually very easy. We all have them within us. It's just understanding when to use them at applicable times in your career to get the best result from them. So I learned very early in my career as a leader, when I was a flight commander, as a young captain, like I thought my leadership style is what I had to take wherever I went. The same style, the same traits in every office. And it didn't work too well for me, but when I went to AFE, where I was a flight commander, the reason it worked well there is because they needed it. The leadership traits I brought worked. Being direct, PT, being up front, like that worked for them. But then after a while, it sort of wore off, and I had to change my leadership traits. And once I started taking care of my life and understanding, like, man, I look back at that and I go, I definitely could have changed how I did some things when it came to leadership. One of the leadership traits I love is just doing hard things physically. What's your mindset and thought when you heard of, I don't even know what you thought before, but if you can remember when you first started hearing about doing hard things to get better, what did you think? And then now when you hear it, how do you teach it to other people? Because I feel like the expression of doing hard things now is very used, right? I think it's just overused a lot. So a lot of people it just goes over their head and they don't do it. But so if you can remember what it was like when you first started, what did you think when you heard it? Now, how do you preach it to new people? Like how easy it is to literally do hard things and become better.
That's tough for me. So in the beginning, it was, do tough things and it'll develop you.
Yeah.
And I get out there, I'm like, this is awful. This is terrible. Why would you let me do this? Like, I don't want to be here. He's like,
I'm not going to get better doing this. This is going to suck.
It's like, this just hurts. What am I doing? I mean, that's a little dramatic, but I didn't really think about it. I jumped in and I was like, let's do this. Let's see what happens. But for now, seeing it firsthand, and like I said, you get out there and 18 miles, 30 pounds. We did the 26 with 45, whatever. You're just like, this is a long ways to go, and every step you take, you're hurting, and then you're mentally battling, and then your mind starts to wander. So yeah, I mean now, and going back to even just these kids, I'll jump onto the McMap courses we're doing. The Air Force doesn't really. I feel like the Air Force teaches a lot of individuals, and seeing how the Marine Corps run, being with Colombo, seeing the Army, it's a team. You're a team. I
get super jealous when I hear the ethos and leadership styles of the other branches compared to the Air Force.
Oh, 100%.
That's what we talked about in our podcast was the different leadership styles in the Air Force, which they teach individuals how to do a job as leadership, right? The Army teaches how to lead as leadership skills early in their careers. And so, continue with you during McMap. You saw the Marines build that in there.
And doing the instructor, I'll go back to the instructor course. I showed up and I was odd man out. I walk in, they're like, who the heck are you? But we finished, we PT'd first, and once I crushed their PT test, they were like, okay, this dude's legit. So I got welcomed into the club, and we're running around. I'm like, it's smooth. Everybody's looking after each other. You're not putting each other down. I mean, you'll trash talk, but just seeing how everything operated throughout the course. And then getting to leading a course with, and Colombo was there. Colombo's helped me with these. And seeing how it's a bunch of individuals. Every man looking after himself. No one was motivating anybody. And then you're at the halfway point. You get to the end, and you see kind of they've done really hard smoke sessions. They literally beat the crap out of each other with their gloves, the pupil sticks, whatever. And then they get to the end, and you put them in a furnace and put that pressure. And then, are they perfect leaders? I don't think so, but I think they'll have some of the smaller tools at an early stage. They're looking after each other. They're motivating each other. And just seeing the confidence that comes from, I mean, this current course, I had a guy who couldn't do 5 push-ups, or we're doing these dive bombers, and he's just sitting down, and we're like, come on, man. And he's like, I can't. And then you give him some of that Marine Corps Army motivation, and you start yelling at him, and you're going to do it. You're not going to say can't, and you're in his face. And I don't think the Air Force offers that. It's very watered down, very soft, and individualism. So, you get that other side of the house where it's like, no, we're going to yell at you, we're going to scream at you, we're going to cuss, you're going to do hard stuff.
And it's working though, right?
Oh.
Like, that's the thing. That's what's crazy. The mindset of the shift of the Air Force from we can't yell, we can't swear at basic, right, to get better leaders. But I honestly don't think it's working. Like, I don't think we're getting our bang for our buck than we did when we could yell, we could swear, because that develops better leaders. Like, it's proven. Like, you look at the people who fought in World War II and those wars, like, they were not PC, man. Like, there's some badass leaders, man. Like, but you look at how we try to fight now, PC wise, with developing leaders, it doesn't translate like that. Like, comfort. It's always going to comfort a crisis, man. Like, you want your comfort to be like your crisis, because you can't raise sheep and expect them to turn into wolves when they have to defend themselves, and just a couple of, I guess, ways to look at it. They're very drastic ways to look at it, right? But there is no like easy way to say it. But yeah, so you said
it's funny. Like I said, this class especially, we put the pressure. I mean, we upped the course is progressed. It's gotten harder. We're kind of taking it a little soft on them the first 2 courses because again, it's Air Force.
Yeah,
they were like, hey man, these guys are going to be able to hack it if we, this full nozzle, full blast. They're
working into it.
They're going to run off. But this one, it was like, no. Sorry, man.
Sink or swim.
Yeah. We had one drop out already. He dropped out. He made 4 days and he was done. And just seeing once we, hey, you're going to get yourself in check. One of the kids kept cussing and like hitting the ground. And we're like, dude, first off, you look like a clown. And 2, first off, you're not going to talk like that. And I jumped on him. Yeah, I can't. And for her viewers' sake, I'm not going to say what I said, but obviously I got in his face. It was like a lot of F-bombs and like, yeah, you're gonna get rid of that word because you can. It's just you don't want to. And anyways, back to the topic. But seeing we start doing these hard things, and then a switch just goes off, like you mentioned. And now I got like, hey, sir, I'm gonna step up and I'm gonna lead. And then the next day, hey, he led yesterday, I'll lead today. And then Colombo's over there suffering. He's got 10 more to go. And everybody ran over there. And they're like, come on. Like, you got this. And a week before that, it was just like, oh, if you make it, you make it. Good luck, Colombo. See ya. It's just like run off. Yeah. I'll quit rambling. I get old, man. I start rambling and telling all these side stories.
You're good. What about you? So when you heard so I feel like for me to preface do hard things with you is different because you came from the Army where you guys probably do a lot of hard things. But being here, having to do more hard things, like what's your mindset like? How do you see the new, youth come through? Like,
it was a completely different change of pace. It's like a completely different mental battle because I grew up in the Army, not having a choice, but to do those hard things. I come out here, now it has to be out of my free will.
That's what's crazy about it, yeah. So for most people, RAD is not mandatory. This is not a mandatory function where we have people go ruck with us every Saturday for 2 hours or do the NFM. It's literally of their own free will. So yeah, so you talk about that as a huge shift.
Because one thing is not having a choice but to be there at 6:30, and we're gonna walk these 12 miles whether you like it or not. Completely different game when it's Saturday morning. You can sleep in and Captain Lanson sends a text, hey, we're rucking tomorrow morning 06. And then you wake up and that's the first one right there, just showing up. Because after you show up, well, everybody's there. You're going to walk anyways. But those first 5 minutes of being snooze the alarm or showing up, I think that was the biggest thing that I was able to develop out of it. From not having a choice to choosing to do it.
That's a huge shift. I like that. Not having a choice to choosing to do hard things. Yeah, that's a big shift for somebody. What are some good examples you have of doing hard things? People listening. So when they think they've heard us talk about very crazy ruck marches, of marathons, Ironmans, Bataans, but what are some other examples of do hard things you can tell people that are new listening that are like, I can't do that. What can they do? What are some good examples you can give?
Outside of just the military and
anybody listening that's just how do I do a hard thing? I don't. What could they do?
For me, it was jiu-jitsu. So I practiced jiu-jitsu for a long time, but when I got here at Dyess, I got linked up with the gym Zombie, and they're like, hey, we're competing, and I was like, man, I know I've mentioned the winning thing. But stage fright, I I don't like to be up in front of big crowds. And we get to a tournament, and obviously their IBJJF is the highest you could go. And stepping out on the mat in front of people, and it's just chaos and craziness. And then having to fight someone else. I mean, I could do it all day at the gym, and, everybody's not out for blood. Everybody's not trying to get that gold medal. And then you just have some guy come at you. So I think jiu-jitsu is a good start for not only the fears, but I feel like that's a hard sport because you're fighting someone else's strength. You know, I can't go in there. I can't bench press a lot. You got to jiu-jitsu. You got to bench press another guy off you. You know, it's a different type. So just getting started too. I would say starting something. It doesn't matter whether you're walking, you're rucking, you're getting a gym membership, and kind of going back to what Colombo said, is not hitting the snooze button.
Yeah,
that's one of the hardest things. I feel like. So for a fitness aspect, I would say jiu-jitsu is a hard thing, whether you're military, civilian, no matter what, you're younger. I think that's a good start. And then again, like I said, not hitting the snooze button. I mean, mentally, that's a mental thing, but
it's an easy one, but it's hard. Like,
yeah, it's hard. So
I think a lot of people would see benefits just off of that, just not hitting the snooze. Like, if somebody did that for a week, I bet you they would feel so much better and accomplished if that was the only thing they did.
That confidence boost.
And then that leads into other things, right? Like not hitting the snooze, you're up 5 minutes early, you're drinking a glass of water, move around your house, like it all piles on. A lot of people think they have to do it all at once.
So,
you know, which you don't. Like, if your goal is to hit the snooze button or not hit the snooze button, do that for, I would say, 3 weeks at the least. That's the only thing you do is not hit the snooze button. Who knows what you do after? Do you get up, still get on your phone, whatever. Then maybe after 3 weeks, you go, hey, now I'm not going to hit the snooze button, but I'm going to get up, and I'm not going to look at my phone right away. I'm going to drink a glass of water. You do that for 3 weeks. And now you're not hitting your snooze, you're drinking water. Then maybe you look at your phone, because I look at my phone every morning as soon as I get up because I try to clear my mind of what's on it, and then I go read, and then I go study. But that's an easy one for people to do is not hit the snooze button. Like, those are some of the things. So when we talk about do hard things, like, that's what it can come down to. Is those simple things. Even if you're good at not hitting the snooze, maybe it's waking up 5 minutes early to go read. That can be a hard thing.
Yes, sir. I think if you do it, because I mean, some people, hey, I get up at noon. That's easy. So I would say I like that idea. Getting up earlier, getting started, and then not getting complacent, not doing the same thing, changing it up. I like that as well. You know, okay, well, I get up and then I'm just on social media until it's time to go to work. No, how about you get a drink of water?
Yeah.
Like you said, start that gallon challenge thing. Go for a walk and just build.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. But yeah.
That's good. What about you?
Yeah.
What are some examples you can give of people to start something hard or lead into it that maybe you've done or you've seen or that maybe we didn't talk about?
So it doesn't really have to be hard. I guess something different. Sure. Because when you start something different, we're going to do a GAFPB. I am a terrible swimmer in uniform. So I had to put myself in that fire of, maybe a month or two out, I should probably start swimming in uniform. And water's the great equalizer.
Yeah.
As soon as I touch the water, I'm like, here we go. And forcing myself to do that thing that's different. Because I've been rucking for 10 plus years. That's okay, just walking. Okay, then let me put myself in a different, more difficult situation. Let's swim. And it's not a hard task. It's 100 meters, you got 4 minutes. But when you're not great at swimming in uniform, that's a completely different story. Just like for other guys, great example, one of the recruiters in the office, he's not a good public speaker. So for him, it's the challenge of getting in front of a classroom. Yeah. And after a few Norwegians or after a few ruck marches, you could see him, okay, I got this. I'll stand in front of the classroom. And I think it's tied back to building that confidence. Yeah, he chose to show up, and then he built the confidence, and then he was the guy standing in front. And that's when you're able to take that step back and be like, all right, you got this.
No, that's good. Yeah, I think that's a huge thing is do hard, do different. Like, they're the same thing. They're the same thing to improve yourself. That's a lot of our journey. Like, my journey was the same way. Like, training for an Ironman, right? Like, you have to be able to swim, you have to be able to ride. So I had to learn how to ride a bike, which I've never competitively done. Swimming, I didn't do competitively, so that was my different. But I also made it harder than it should be, to push myself. So yeah, doing different things is great. And you guys, doesn't have to be physical. It can be reading. It could be learning a new language, public speaking. Those are just examples that are going to impact your life as well. And so, yeah, so that's good there. Let's see. So we talked about it. Did you want to add anything?
I was going to say, I like that, making the changes.
Yeah.
I like that a lot because a lot of times that time you spend on social media, because I'm guilty of that. I got the language app. I went to the library. I've been doing it for 6 years. You think I'd be fluent in Italian, but yeah, I get sidetracked. So I like that. But yeah, no, I was going to touch on that. That was a good point because pretty much called me out on the podcast.
So that was a random question. What do you think about when you're doing these rucks for hours? What do you think about personally? I'll tell you what I think about, and then Colomba, you can talk about it. This is just a great question because a lot of people ask me, what do you do for 5 to freaking 10 hours, man? Like when you're especially by yourself. I don't know if you've done one. I don't know if you have, or even when we're in a group, sometimes we don't talk at all. So like, I don't know, like what do you think about?
Real quick, like I said, I don't want to get off tying the last topic to this one. I was just going to say that I think the last question was hard for me because I had to recreate myself. Once we got going, I wasn't a public speaker, and touching off what Colombo, the confidence that it built, it's hard to go back and talk about who I was prior to Rad, because I feel like I'm a totally different person than that. But
yeah, because none of you guys knew me before I started before Rad too, because I'm a totally complete person. Like, and so it's funny when you say that. It's even hard for me to think about what it was 3 years ago when I started my journey, like who I was. And I wasn't anybody horrible. I was average. Like I was a normal dad. I thought drinking 1 to 2 beers a night was normal. I complained about all the excuses when it came to chores around the house. I was average at work when I thought I was doing better than I should be. And that's just the complacency. And I look back at it and I was like, man, that's what an average person would say, that they did think they were doing better. They did think they were working hard. When in actuality, I wasn't. And so it's really crazy for me to look back. Like I see pictures of, and I use what I look like personally. Like, right, like I didn't have a mustache. So that's usually when I share pictures, like that's what it was. Like no mustache Manny, bigger per se. And I'm glad you brought that up on when I asked you, like, what was it like before? And you're like, I don't know, because that's not me anymore, you know?
So,
like, and that's a good thing to remember for when you start these journeys is you have to know who you were before. So when you start and you start to slack, you know where you don't want to go.
Yes, sir.
Like that keeps me on track so many times. Whenever I fail or I slack, and it can be the smallest thing. Like when I catch myself being on social media more than I am, I'm like, dude, you're turning into your old self. And that's like a tiny thing, right? That's not like binge eating or starting to drink. Like for some people, that's not that bad, but that's where it can start. And so you'll learn when you are really good at evolving yourself, you catch yourself a lot quicker. And that's what I try to teach a lot of people when it comes to health and wellness is I don't care if you fall off the track on not tracking or you fall off and you overeat on calories. I care about how soon you catch yourself to get back on track. Did the old you fall off and maybe not do anything for a year or months and then realize it? But does your new self fall off and then the next day you're like, shit, I got to track my macros again. Or I got to pre-plan my meals. Like those are usually the wins I tell people where they don't realize they're winning. Because before they would have taken like months and months and months to get back on track. Now they're only wasting, but getting back on track after a day. But crazy tangent that you brought up was when you start to evolve, it's hard to remember who you were before. But yeah, what was the question I was asking though? It was
what's your thoughts?
Oh yeah, what do you talk about when you're on a walk?
It's funny you say that because even when I go to the gym with some of the kids from the shop, everybody has the headphones or the AirPods or whatever the heck, or Beats, whatever they are. Man, you don't wear anything. And I told them, I had a Marine gunnery sergeant tell me that the ruck for both Army and Marines are to battle that mental battles. Because you said you put the music on and it drowns out your thoughts. But it's funny because a lot of times I just like, whether, I'm getting older, I'll be honest. Things are hurting, my feet, the blisters come, toenails fall off. And then like the McMap course, you're hitting, you get the lactic acid buildup, muscle failure, but it's just don't quit. I think of my daughter. I was like, don't quit, because then not only is she going to see that and she's going to think, okay, school's getting hard, or this is getting hard, I'm going to quit. Dad did it, so I can do it. So I just keep telling myself, you can't quit. Just a couple more steps. That ruck march. I'm not always going to have you guys there. I'm like on the NFL, and I'm hurting. You guys are like, nope, come on. Like, let's go. You drag me along. But when I'm by myself, I keep telling myself, just repeat it. Don't quit. Can't quit. Just a little bit further. And then I just think about our past heroes, in the military, who didn't have a choice. Tell myself, someone's life's on the line. You got to get to them. Like Colombo was like, when I was helping with the class, I tried to jump in, and he's like, come on, man, people are watching. And he started yelling out, he's like, you're taking fire, your buddy's down, let's go. And then when you have somebody there, you can't let them down. But yeah, when I'm by myself, though, it's just, I keep telling myself, can't quit. And then I think of all life's lessons that are coming at me.
Yep.
And what I got to do, and what I got to do to be better. Because, like I said, I got a taste of the victory, and got to keep winning. And they make fun of it. I told Colombo, they're like, hey, man, all these crazy things you want to do, we got to cut back. But so, yeah, no, I just start thinking, what's next, too, at the end of the day. So it's don't quit, what's next, and then think about my daughter who's watching. Put on a show, keep them motivated.
Yeah. How about you?
I go down the rabbit hole. I mean, it's good because it's early in the morning usually.
Yeah.
So if we're not engaged in a conversation, that's the thing I like the most about like our rucks, because I get to ask you different questions.
Yeah.
The shirt, I get to pick, hey, this situation, what would you do?
Yeah.
How do you approach it? But like once I go down that rabbit hole, it's like I'll try to like, okay, so what do I need to do today? And then, all right, well, what am I doing after the ruck? So it's like it's kind of convenient because when I'm going down that rabbit hole, but it's really easy to catch yourself like just going down the getting frustrated because we all have goals, we all have like ambitions, and then like I need to do this, or like I'm falling behind on that. So yeah, it's just a rabbit hole.
No, I think that's huge. That's what I do. I plan my whole day every morning when I run or walk or ruck, or like I don't wear headphones. I do listen to music, but there's no headphones, so I can still like think. I'm not like completely like zoned out to the music. I just put my phone on speaker. I also listen to podcasts, which I think are great because I'll listen to podcasts and I will stop and like, oh, that's a good point. Let me write that down. But I do the rabbit hole stuff all the time. Like if I know I'm having a meeting with my boss that day, or where my emails are going to be, or when I'm packing my kids for lunch, or what time I'm picking up my kids, do I have to leave from here? Like I will plan everything down to the minute. So as soon as I get home, that stress is already gone. Like I'm not stressing, which is weird. I'm stressing when I'm working out about the little things, but I'd rather stress about it then, comfort, than before I walk into a meeting with my commander. Like I will play out differently. I've done this so many dang times, it's crazy. I plan out the worst scenarios with any discussion I have with my commanders or supervisors or mentors or anything, so that if it does happen, I'm not caught off guard.
You already have an answer.
And even though I know the meeting isn't going to be that bad, like I've had meetings with my commander where I'm like, oh, I know we're only going to talk about what I'm doing for my job, but what if I go in there's a shirt in the corner? What do I expect? Or because I've had that. I've been in a brief with the commander where I didn't expect that to happen, and there was a shirt in the corner. And you guys know if there's a shirt in an office with a superior, it's not good. They're there to witness something. And so that caught me off guard, and I had to catch myself right when I sat down. Luckily, I was able to hold my P's and Q's, not say anything stupid, or because he was trying to get me in trouble. But I plan all that out now. Like I'll be like, okay, I'm talking to my commander at 1. So at 12:30, I got to do this. What can we talk about here? Well, I'm getting ready to go to selection. Does he want to talk about that? I don't think so. Am I doing my job well? I don't know. Well, maybe I'm not. Oh, shoot. Did I admit, like I will. And it's like ADD, but man, it helps me just de-stress before any of that stuff even happens.
Sets the tone for it.
Let's just say I go in there and he's like, hey, good job, Dan. I'm like, fuck, that's all you want to talk about, man? I was expecting like, I wanted you to grill me on something, so when I knew you were going to ask me, I seemed like ready, like, that's the mentality. I think, and it's crazy to think about that. Like when I run at least 3 miles or more, it's rabbit hole time, man. Then I get done running and I'm like, oh shoot, where am I? I'm in the middle of nowhere. Like, what's going on? Like,
I need to get back.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys said that. I was going to say, that's where I come up with a lot of the ideas for what's next with these events. But the problem is, I'll tell you guys, hey, I got an idea, and then we'll go do whatever activity I get back. Pull the Sleepy Joe. I'm like, I forgot everything.
I forget so much. Like, I'll get down the run and be like, oh my god, I thought of the best reel to make, the best TikTok, And then I'm gonna make it, and I'm like, I need to go run again, like, just to remember what I said.
I'll stop mid-run and just text myself, like, from my personal phone number to my go. I'm like, if not, I'm going to forget.
I've done, like, quick little videos as I'm running, like, don't forget to say this when you get back. I'm like, so I'll find this random video, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And that's why I love morning exercise to begin with, because it helps prepare for that part of the day. It helps de-stress, which is what an exercise should be, de-stressing, so that you can handle life's decisions no matter what they're going to be. But that's good right there. All right, so we talked about what do you think about on long runs? What's next for you, man? What are some random things you got coming up or you want to do? Or now that you do these things,
Man, I had a whole long laundry list of things. I know we're looking at doing airborne air assault.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my leadership with the 9 Megan.
Yeah.
I know we have the instructor course coming up for McMap, which I'll be helping instruct. We'll have 10 Marines, Army, Navy, I don't know. Columbus still deciding. And then we'll have 2 Air Force. And then I've talked to y'all a little bit. I'm thinking about trying to get into selection.
Yeah.
I got a lot of irons in the fire. A lot of options, a lot of career choices I got to make in the near future. So it's just kind of fine tuning which way I want to go, what I want to do. And again, just win. I know my leadership always laughs like, man, that's all you ever say. You just want to win.
Yeah.
But the momentum that Rad's given me, and just the mindset, it's just a night and day. So I just want to keep that forward momentum. Whether it's a walk, crawl, run, whatever it is, I just ready for the next. I told Colombo, I was like, I'm ready to look like one of those foreign generals with all the badges and medals hanging off everywhere. So, no, I would say I would like to get to this is kind of far-fetched because I know my unit's like, you're not special forces, you're not, anything crazy. So jungle school is kind of on the chopping block, ranger school.
Yeah.
I think it would be good for me, for my career and helping as far as leadership, but justifying funding for Gonzo's crazy, wacky adventures isn't suitable for the commander. But and then pushing, I know I've talked to you a lot about pushing Rad.
Yeah.
I would really like to get out to Barksdale with Global Strike now that our commander's a wing commander out there. I know he was big on the impact it has. So as far as career, I would say ultimately getting Rad at Barksdale, getting McMap out there, I know they did the NFM, but getting some of these other schools out there to them. Like I said, I'm ready to send that email.
Yeah.
Let Colonel know, hey, I know some guys.
Let's do it.
But so yeah, just getting those changes. I know you two are both very humble, but seeing the impact that Rad has not only had on you guys, which I know you can't put it all out there, but the impact it's making right now is, like I said, seeing the changes in the few people who've done the NFMs, have done the March to Dykirk, and then like this recent class, which they're looking at kicking classes out now. A lot of leadership on base is getting involved, and they're like, hey, we're about to start sending people to McMahon.
Yeah.
They're seeing it. So seeing these changes, it's the little battles. But yeah, like I said, I can't thank you guys enough for what Rad's done and what it's going to continue to do. I know there's backlash for it, but anyways,
haters gonna hate.
Yeah, haters gonna hate for real. It blows my mind to see. Again, it's just that Air Force leadership style.
It's crazy.
And I'm not trying to get nobody in trouble, but if you want to call it that, because I in my eyes that's not leadership.
No.
Yeah. So if we can get some people with the same mindset to see, hey, this impact it's making on airmen, to go out and change, because even with the spark cell, I know I mentioned that the two go hand in hand, because then we started making parts. We started making tools in our shop, and it's like you're doing the hard things, you're doing the physical, and it like ignites something in the mind. It does, yeah. And yeah, I won't rant too much. No, that's good. I get worked up.
How about you?
Next is Bataan. Hopefully Gonzo will be joining us. After that, pending that selection date for warrant officer flight training. Hopefully that works out. After that, selection. Yeah. If the one thing to go through, and just keep getting after it, because this next 6 months there's like a lot of uncertainty. So you just got to stick to the script and got to lock it in though. I've been slacking a little bit lately, but I'll get back on it.
Nice. Any other questions you guys have, or parting shots, or?
What about you? What's next?
What's next?
Oh yeah, cliffhanger. Next episode.
No, it's a lot, man. Yeah, so for me, I have selection in a couple weeks for TAC PO, which is the TAC P officers go through an assessment week at Camp Bolus to be selected to become officers in the community to go through the schoolhouse. So I have that in March 18th, which is why I can't do the Bataan. I would love to, but I just remember how broke I was after the last Bataan. I don't think it'll get any easier this time. But anyways, yeah, so a week-long assessment course. Hopefully after that I get selected. I continue to the schoolhouse for TAC P for a year-ish, go through that, go to the next Army base. And what's crazy that I've loved what you guys have talked about is people think their goals have to be so short time frame, right? Like months. Like we're talking years, which is what I want people to realize. Like your goals should not be within a year, I don't think. All of our goals are like 3 or 5 years down the road. Like you're talking about a new job. You're talking about a new job. I'm talking about a new job. Like those are years down the road. That's what I want people to understand is what RAD has helped us look at is not just short term. RAD is a long-term program. It's not a quick fix. And that's what it's helped in me. It's helped me understand like what I started 3 years ago has allowed me to look ahead 5 years and look at a new job, look at cross-training as a major in the Air Force, look at taking my family to a whole new place, look at getting out of flying and going to a new job, all because I wanted to work with better leaders, push myself further, push myself physically, and do these hard things. And so that's where I'm at. I still will do 4x4x48 in March. We have the 24-hour row-a-thon that we're going to do where a team of 3 are going to row for 24 hours, 20 minutes off, 40 minutes off. Next Saturday is just like a random challenge we're going to do. Depending on my schoolhouse dates, we'll see if I can knock out some other big events. But that's where I'm at in my life. I try to at least have a few hard physical events throughout the year to keep me structured on my goal. And then those all compile into my life goals as well. So without the small things, I can't do the big things. But that's where I'm at. And then obviously with the podcast, we have some more episodes coming up later on down the road where I'll be doing a direct sort of career background on me with a good buddy, just so everybody can understand where I come from. And because the intro was pretty quick on my background, but I do want to get it out there and talk about some leadership stuff there. And this is obviously the first for like a group one discussion. And to wrap it up, if you guys enjoyed it, obviously I just asked, share, save, comment, do what you can. This was very informal discussion, but something where we could look at it, let's talk about that next episode. Let's talk about that next episode. Or let's bring in a couple other people and see what we can do. So obviously different, but that's why I like it because, we learn every time we're on these. So,
I think this was awesome. And taking from it real quick, because when you speak, very passionate, and then it sparks something.
Yeah.
But it's just helping me. You just helped me realize because I should have said it earlier. Because there's a difference between quitting and there's a difference between failure.
Yeah.
So when you quit, you're done. Yeah. You're gonna fail.
Yeah.
No one's perfect. It's just keeping that forward momentum.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are good points. Yeah. Forward momentum. Failure is huge, right? Like we've said it many a times. Leaders are always going to fail. There's nobody's made it throughout their life being successful. If they haven't tried. But yeah, that's good. So.
No, I can't. Like I said, I can't thank both of you enough. Can't thank you. Red's not over. We're getting into Barksdale.
No, I think it's it's everything had its peak and now we're battling with, you guys succeeded, you peaked. How are you going to continue? You know, like, and that's the point of life. Like, everybody does it. They lose weight as a journey, right? Then once they lose it, they sort of gain it back because they don't know how to maintain it. We're in that phase of the drag of the maintain, right? Like, can we outlast the quitters and take that small group that's going to succeed, and then they're going to branch out? Because we've got some good feedback this year. So, and we'll see what this brings. You know, maybe somebody listens to this podcast, be like, "Oh, I want to bring Rad to my base," and that's what I'll challenge you guys listening. If you're in the military or not, and you want to start a group of people that want to do hard things, like, this is a great episode to listen to. We are great people to talk to on how to help do that, because we've done it and we've proved it and it works. So.